Hi everyone, this is Emily Bowen-Moore. This is Journalism 273 in the Meek School of Journalism and New Media. This is a video tutorial that is going to give you some direction with your first minor project, which is primarily working with type and image. And here we have a basic layout of what we're going for. Your goal is to find at least 6 images of shoes, different types of shoes, and then create a text box underneath and insert type that relates visually to that style of shoe. In other words, it needs to represent in its typography a cohesive or send the same message. So as you can see, for the cowboy boot, I found a Western font here. It's called Playbill, and you can adjust and play with the type however you want. You can play around with the creativity of your whole layout as long as you've got nice, consistent alignment and spacing between your elements, and that you can see everything visibly and clear, so everything works in a balanced way in the composition. So let's look at how to do that. We want to have already gotten all your images. You want to, if you need to adjust the resolution in those, make sure that you've done that in Photoshop. And if you're not sure how to go about that, make sure you watch the video. And also, we want to talk about type for a moment. I want you to know where you can get type from. If we're in our type tool, you're going to see your panel up here with all your type options. But if we click on the font style, or I'm sorry, the typeface, we can see all of our options here. We've got a lot. These are going to be the ones you've used more recently, but you can see samples of what they look like. And we can also go into Typekit, which is provided by Adobe. And it will allow you to also research. Now the fonts and the typefaces in Typekit are going to be synced. They're not going to be actually downloaded onto your computer. So you will have to make sure they're synced. Now I synced the Sutro Deluxe here, and you can check. You can go to your little icon, your Adobe icon, and you can look at your assets, your fonts. It'll tell you what fonts you've synced here. And if you've synced them, which is you will sync them through your little cloud if you're downloading them, and you find one you like. So I'm going to minimize this, but when I go to my fonts, if you've synced them, they will show up in your font database here. So Sutra is in here, Sutro Deluxe right here, and it'll say TK, it'll say that it came from Typekit. So you can get them from Typekit. You can also get them from Suitcase Fusion, which is a downloadable program. They're on the lab computers in Farley. Or you can get them off the internet. If you get them off the internet, you have to go about a certain way, making sure they're on your computer. So let's say I went to Font Space. You can find free fonts here. So say I wanted the Airways font. I can download that. It's going to probably come in a zip file. So if I open that folder, it'll probably have all the characters, and it's going to have, these are going to be for personal use only, of course. It'll either be an OTF file or a TTF file, so that's what you need to worry about. Now if you have a Mac, when you click on that, it's automatically going to pull up a window asking you to install the font. So if I install the font, it's going to go into my font book. And you can see once you have downloaded it, it'll show up in all of your databases, including your InDesign database. And when you package your file, which I'm going to show you how to do later, that will automatically be linked in your package file. Otherwise, if it's not on your computer, it will show it as a missing font, and I will not be able to see it. If you have a missing font, you will see your words highlighted in that font. They'll be highlighted pink. And you will also have an error down here. It'll say that you have missing fonts. This will be red, the little dot will be red, and it'll tell you that you have missing fonts. Okay. Any errors down here you don't want, obviously. So, let's look at your layout. Let's start a new document. Let's put your pictures into place and create your layout. I'm just going to show you the basics, and then you can finish it out. So if you go up to your top menu, you can go to File, New Document. And here it's going to show you a preview, since I have in this lower left corner this checked. So if you have that checked, any changes you make on the screen will reflect visibly on your screen so you can see it. We are doing this for print technically. Our number of pages, we only need one. This is a letter size. It's set in picas, but say we wanted it, we didn't know an offhand conversion. If I wanted it 9 inches, I could still put it 9 in the double quotes for inches, and it would convert automatically. So you don't have to look it up to see what those are, what 8.5 inches is in picas. But it will automatically set it up for you in basic formats here. And tabloid would be 11 by 17. Here you have landscape or portrait. You can use either orientation. You can set columns to help you align things better. If we do 6, that works really well. In magazine layout, we usually use 12 just because it's easily divisible by 2s, 3s, 4s. So you can align things and space things out a lot easier. Your gutter is going to be the space in between those columns. So we're just going to leave that at 1 pica. Here we have a 1/2 inch text margin around the page. So we're going to leave that, just 3 picas. Now if I wanted to individually make those margins different, I could click this little chain button, link button, and you could make them the same or click it to assign different margins settings there. Your bleed and slug, we will use a bleed margin in this class, but you will never really use a slug margin. Slug margin basically puts a tab out on the outside of the page that gives you a place to put special instructions if you're needing to tell the printer something, which you're not really going to need that. Your bleed margin is if you are bleeding a color or an image or anything off the page, you need to use the bleed margin or set a bleed margin. So I usually do 1/4 inch. My double quotes. Now I'm going to click this to make them assign the same around all sides. And you will see the little red border pop up. So any color boxes or graphics or images or anything you have bleeding off the page, you need to take to your bleed margin. That enables the printer, when they are cutting the actual dimensions of the layout in place, you don't end up with any slivers of white where it gets slightly off alignment. So if you have your bleed margin, if they cut here along the edge of the page, you'll never have to worry about your images showing white or anything. Okay, so now we have our page set up. Now we're ready to place some frames. And if we go to our frame tool, if we hold down when we click, we have different types of frames. We have rectangle frame, and we have ellipse and polygon or multi-sided frame. So you can do your frames whatever shapes you want. You know, you be creative with your layout. I'll show you both in this exercise, this demo. So here we have but F is our shortcut for frame. If I'm back in the selection tool, if I want to go back to the frame tool, I can just hit F. It goes to my frame tool. So I'm going to do the top ones. the same. I'll do the bottom one's ellipse. So here we have, I've done 2 here, and notice my pop-up guides came up. Oops. So if I go back to my selection tool, I can select them. You know, when you're moving them around, it'll show you when you have things centered and aligned, which is really nice. And if I want to continue going to my frame tool and creating new ones, I can do that, or I can copy and paste them by selecting it, Command C, Command V, and putting them in place. Or I can select it, hold down the Option key, and it will duplicate and move at the same time. Notice my cursor doubled when I hit Option. So if I hold down the Option key, you can duplicate and move at the same time. That saves you a lot of time, makes things more efficient. So we have 3 square frames. Now let's do a few round frames, and you can click and drag these however you want. So if we go back to our frame tool here, or if we click F and we hold it down, we can go to our ellipse frame tool. Now we can click from the left like we did with the rectangle and bring it in, and it's almost a perfect circle. You can see the width and the height screen pop up. It's not the same exact here. So you can kind of mess with it to get it the same. If you want a perfect circle, you can hold down the Option and Shift key, Shift, and it will bring it from the center and expand from the center and create a perfect circle. So that's what we want. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool so I can move this down just a little. So now we've got some round frames here as well. So I'll duplicate those and hold down my Option key. I'll have it selected. Do that twice so I can move it over. So now we have some frames in place for our pictures. So now we're ready to place those pictures. So I'm going to select my first frame. You can either go to File, Place, or you can Command D, which is also a shortcut for place. And I'm going to do the cowboy here. Now notice it's not fitting in my frame very well. So what I need to do is adjust the picture inside the frame. So right now I have the frame selected. So if I double click on that image, then I can access the actual image itself. Now if you have a trackpad instead of a mouse, you can use your fingers and pinch like you do on to zoom in and out of a device. You can do it that way. Or you can go to the corner or any of the toggles and hold down your Command Shift key, and then you can adjust it proportionately. Okay, so either way will work. So I'm going to fit that in the frame. Notice your hand tool pops up when you are scrolling over the image at any point. That means you can move it around in that frame. Sometimes you have a bigger picture and you just want to show, like say if it's a group photo and you want to just show 2 people's face, you can move the photo around and show just what you want to be visible in the frame. So that comes in handy in certain instances. Okay, so now we've got that one. If we click off of it, we can see our frame. Now we can assign an outside border to this frame or line around the frame if we want, or we can create a color around it, or whatever you want to do there creatively, but you need to make sure it's selected first. Let's say we wanted a black line. I have it set at 1 point. You can see how thick it can actually go down back to 0. So if I leave it at 1 point, that'll give us a pinstripe around our frame here. Otherwise, your print view, if we hit W, we wouldn't really be able to see your frames at all. And in this case, I want you to be able to see around the edge here just for the practice purposes. You don't necessarily have to do it in assignment if you don't want, but it's just easy to see here in the demo. So now we're going to go around and we're going I'm going to adjust these a little bit faster just to move through the exercise. Here. So now we're ready for the round ones, and this is going to come in handy. I'm actually going to assign, hold on, I'm going to assign these two frames to have a stroke as well. So I'm going to do both of them at once. So I'm going to select this one, and then I'm going to hold down my shift key so I can select multiple objects. So now I've got both of these boxes, and I'm going to assign a black stroke. So now I can do both of them at once. Okay, so now I've got this. And I can do the same thing with these. I can select all of them. I can either click and drag over all of them to select them all, or I can select the first one, hold down my shift key, and select multiple objects. So I can add a stroke to those as well for this purpose. So now we're ready to place the slipper. So these round frames are a little bit harder. You got to make the image a little smaller. You can crop the image, I guess, a little bit. Just make sure it's not an awkward crop to the eye. That's called a visual tangent. You never want those. So again, I'm selecting the object, Command D to place the picture, telling it where to get the image from in my computer. And it's automatically creating a link to these images. In other words, I can go to my links window over here, and it's going to show all my pictures that I have. And it will let you know what that information is, the size of it, the resolution, everything. So now we're ready for our text boxes. Now for these up here, I'm going to do a regular text box. On the bottom ones, I'm going to do type on a path to make them arch around the circle, just to show you how to do that as well. Now when you click and drag to create a text box, which is your shortcut T, it's automatically going to pop up a cursor in the left alignment. So obviously you have your type options up here. You also have your paragraph tools, so you can set that to center alignment. That'll be helpful in this case. I'm going to type out the word shoe. And you can click and drag over everything, or you can do Command A to select all the type. And I'm going to change this. I had picked out bullion here. It's kind of westerny and distressed. I'm going to make it really big. Now different typefaces are going to look different at the same points. Like 57 points in this bullion WF typeface may be really, really huge compared to, Garamond Pro at 57 points. Garamond would be a lot smaller visually. So different typefaces are going to have different ratios relative to their points and size. So I can also duplicate and move these text boxes as well. You can create them individually. Just keep creating one. Your pop-up guides will show you if that they're the same size. So you can do it that way, and you can click back into each text box to go back and forth. I'm going to center align that. This croc may have a different style, so you might find it somewhere else. I want something kind of bubbly, kind of rubbery and thick. So once you find something you like, and you can look at some of these and they will have different types of styles that go with. So for instance, if I selected the Geneva, for instance, I can go up here. It is only offered in regular style. I can't get an italics, I can't get a bold or anything like that. But however, if you look at Helvetica New, which is a newer used font, you've got a lot of styles here to work with. So depending on the typeface that you use, you've got a lot of, you may or may not have some things to work with. This ball house doesn't give us much option either, but there we go. Nice and round. We got that ball house font going on. A lot of geometry involved. You can see this is 58 points, and it looks a lot different at 58 or 57 points. This was 57 points in the bullion. This is 57 points in the ball house. Okay, so you'll continue doing that with all of your shoe images. You know, make sure they match up in style and appearance and visual message coming across. So if I were to cover up the word shoe, you know, or cover up the picture, I should say, I would like for the style of the font to kind of be indicative of what type of shoe it might be relating to. Okay, so now with these, let's try and make these arch around the round frame here. And you don't necessarily have to have a stroke around it. Just for this purpose, again, I just want to be able to, for it to be visible, for you to be able to see it. So in this case, when you use a type on a path tool, you definitely want to create your path first. So in this case, we've created a frame, which in turn creates an arch for us to type. This way we can make the shoe kind of arch under the bottom. You can make it arch around the top, it doesn't really matter. So now that I've created the path, I can just go to my type on a path tool. So I can go over here, hold it down, and I can go back to my object, and notice when I scroll over that line, my cursor has the plus key. That means, or has a little plus sign beside it. That means it's ready to type on that path. In this case, it's upside down. I'm going to select all of it. I'm going to go to Object, or I'm sorry, Type on a Path, Options, and that's going to give us some options here. I'm going to click Preview so we can see what we're doing. I want to flip this because I want it to be on the other side, but I want the ascender, not the baseline, to be along that line. So I want the top of the word to be on that line. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. I'm going to adjust the size. Just do it at 40. And your font, you know, you'll want to find one obviously that works. I'm just going to pick this one, this Cooper Black, just for the purpose. I could probably pick something better than this. But for time purposes, now I want to kind of move this around. So instead of using your space bar, just go back to your selection tool, and it will give you these bars and allow you to kind of move the word along the line. So you can kind of center it there. Okay. So that looks for about centered. Now you can remove that stroke. You would still be able to see. Click W to print view. You know, now it's going to kind of arch and give you a subliminal frame, but in this case we wouldn't be able to see it. So that's why I added the black stroke here, so you could actually see the frame that was round. Sometimes you'll have a color behind it or something. So you'll do that if you want to do that with round frames. You know, that's an option that you have. It's up to you to be creative with your layout and how you're doing that. Don't forget to put your name on it, so make sure you definitely create a text box for that. Make sure it's easy to read. I'm just going to use and you can put your section too, whatever that section is. Whether it's 8, 6, 5, or 4. And then choose my project. All right, so that can go on the page just as long as it's on there. So your name. And then you're going to save it as an InDesign file. So you can When you save it, you're required to put your last name first, underscore, and the title. So ShoesMP for minor project. I'm going to save it to my desktop for now. Normally, your projects are going to be packaged, which you can do that too. Let's go through that process. Let's go ahead and package everything. Then you've got all the versions. So if I go to File, Package, down here at the bottom, it's going to package everything, the entire publication, all my fonts, all my links and images, any color enhancements that I've made, and you can make other adjustments here. It's going to show you what fonts you have and whether they're okay. If you have any warnings or if they're protected by licensure, it's going to let you know. It's going to pick up on that. It's going to let you know. It's going to warn you about that. It's got your print settings, everything here. Just a basic summary. So we're going to click Package. And we haven't saved it yet, so we're going to go ahead and save it. Save. I'm going to replace it because I've already done that. So we're going to, you don't normally have to fill all this out. So I'm going to delete all this. I actually just sent a magazine to press. So if you're working professionally in this regard, you want to put this embeds my information. So if they can't reach anybody at the school, they can contact me. It's automatically going to be embedded in the file. So here I'm going to keep the same file name. Oops. More ShoesMP. Make sure you keep all your file names consistent. That's really important. All right, now it's asking me where do I want the package folder to go. Once they've packaged it together, where do I want them to put it? So I'm going to put it at my desktop. It's going to be called More ShoesMP folder. So now it's packaging. It's going to give you any warning. It's just going to warn you about any copyright infringement on your fonts, which we're not infringing on anything. You also want to double check and make sure you have no errors before you package. So if I look to my desktop here, here's my More ShoesMP. If I open that up, this is my package folder that it just created. Now I've got all versions. I've got my PDF, which is what you're required to upload into Box. I've got my original InDesign InDesign file, which is what we just created. And I've got an IDML file, which is an InDesign file that is adaptable to older versions. So if you went to another lab and had to open this up on another computer that was a CS4, an older version of Adobe, you would have to use the IDML file. This is just a basic text file format that gives you all of your file information, everything in it. And then you've got two other folders. We've got our links, which is all our photographs that we used. They're linked and placed in that package folder, and all the fonts we used are on here. By packaging your folder, what that enables it to do, say I was the printer and you were sending me something to print for you, and you didn't package the folder, and I had to open it up, and I didn't have two of the fonts that you used in your document. I wouldn't be able to see those if I didn't have them on my computer. I wouldn't be able to see them in your document, and they wouldn't print. So what packaging does is it has everything that you used in your document packaged together. So if you sent me your packaged folder of your document, I would be able to access your links. I would be able to access your fonts and use them. So this is really important because you're going to have to package almost every assignment that you do. So I want you to know how to do this. So there's your packaged folder. For this assignment, you're required to upload your PDF into Box. So you would go to on this website, go to Box at the very bottom corner, and I've already got a link to my box here. Here's our fall 2016 minor projects. Go to your section, and you can either click and drag your PDF in here, as you can see a student has already done, or you can upload and file as PDF. Okay, so that's what you're supposed to do. All right, so if you have questions, just let me know. I hope this helps, and good luck with your project. Remember to be creative. Remember to keep consistency in your spacing and alignment, and have fun exploring typefaces. And I look forward to seeing your designs.